What's up, Joe 200? Hey, it's March 9, week 9, and we're going to go over the economics now of having aging in the population. We're going to look at it with respect to global economics, look at a number of countries. Specifically, we're going to focus in on the developed countries, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD countries, and then we're focusing on the US. Yeah, so for me, it's week 3, pretty wild. 3 weeks out, you kind of see right here. So where the incision was made right there, as you can hardly even tell. 3 weeks out since I had 2 discs removed, um, 2 grafts, and then fused 3 vertebrae. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just gonna keep the brace off for this video, and then we're gonna put it back on, and then I get to take the brace off. Luckily for me, on Wednesday night, I guess, or maybe Thursday morning, officially 1 month or 4 weeks afterwards. Okay, all right. We're going to bounce back and forth a little bit to what we referenced in week 8 when we're looking at caregiving. And again, a lot of it has to do with cost and burden, okay, and really the distribution of wealth and how we allocate our wealth when we're the working group and we have the people down below that are little babies, okay, and their dependents, 0 to 18. You guys are even dependent up into your mid 20s now, and then people that have retired. And are no longer working, and they are dependents. And we're going to look at how that all plays out. In terms of your writings, April 9th, I believe, is your next writing assignment, and it's going to go into I'm going to reference that in today's lecture because it's really important that we're a capitalistic society. We do not have an enormous tax base. You may not think so, but compared to many other developed countries, our tax base is pretty small, which means the government can't provide the guaranteed support, which means as a capitalistic society, it's really up to us, and there's not much there to catch those people that or underprivileged, those people that are lower socioeconomic, right? And that's going to be a big deal in our country. I'll just throw the number out there, okay? So we're really close to right now. People that retire over the age of 60 is the most recent study that was looked at, where 50% of people over the age of 60, their income is just 100% dependent on Social Security. And these are the low wage earners. And so their Social Security check's not going to be as high as mine is. Okay. So these people, they may be only getting if they're lucky, maybe $3,000 a month, maybe $1,000 a month. Whereas, I'm going to be in a position to be making, approaching $5,000 a month at some point from my Social Security, and I've got all my assets. All right. So that's my little introduction. Okay. So don't forget, you do have that writing assignment coming up. I know you're going off in spring break. All right. You guys got your eyes on the prize, but do remember we still have to hold your foot to the fire, and you got to get stuff done. All right. Okay. Very cool. So let's go on here. Content. Okay, so I was checking out the CTs, okay, just because I thought it was important. And so you can see that right here. So this was the first one. You guys have done a great job. And then this is the second one. The cool thing about the second one is what we're going to be doing is you guys are going to be doing Roth IRAs and IRAs, and you're going to look at what happens when you watch out for yourself, as long as you have the income to do so, and just watch how your income grows, by investing now, right? Okay, so let's go on down here. So we did caregiving, and I'm going to reference back to that in a second here, but we're going to also go into um, week 9. Okay, it's hard to believe. All right. So when we look at economics, this is actually a really cool graphic. It's a pretty honest representation of the money, okay, and the well-being of our country. And there's my doggy, my big boy. One over here. I'm petting Desi right now. Here, do you want to say hi, buddy? There it is. Oh, he's off. My boy. He really doesn't like the attention. Okay. Um, okay. So we talk about, basically balancing your checkbook, okay? And that is every country is an estimate of of their income and their expenditures, okay? And well, we look at things like healthcare costs, and we've brought this up quite a bit. In the end of the day, my neck surgery, my fusion of my vertebra, my discectomy, is probably going to be costing my insurance company, for the most part, it's going to be costing them, approaching 90 grand. All right. There you go. Okay. I didn't have any problems until I hit 60. I'm going to be 69 in June. And then, the cost of me to my insurance company is significant, and so that burden is then passed along to you guys as well in terms of your insurance premium. Okay. We have social services. Okay. So these are the support that both the state and government has to provide help to people that are vulnerable. And when we're looking at aging, to aging populations, we have the workforce. Okay, so this is income that's generated, and then we also look at consumer spending. Okay, so this is and it's a good readout. Consumer spending is a good readout of how viable the economy is. It's part of the gross domestic product, and consumer spending goes way down because people are fearful. Okay, they start pulling back, and that's when we hit a recession. All right. So, anyways, that's a good graphic. All right, so we're gonna get into the discussion here. Really good videos, okay? I really want you guys to kind of look at that. This last one is really amazing. It gives you a real perspective, and in every step of the way, these were put together during the recession of 2008, the first couple right here, and then this one right here was put together more recently, and I think it's a 2018 video. Everything holds true across the board, okay? But it really hones in on the concept that the kind of our government's economic expectation is that you guys are going to do well. It's a capitalistic society. We're individual based, so people that do well do well. Okay, and so we want you to keep working. We don't want to have to pay for your Social Security. We don't want to have to pay for your Medicare if you're the government, because it's such an enormous portion of the federal budget, and so we're being pushed further and further to work longer, and that's all good, except for the unfortunate people. And that's where this video is amazing and really gets into the concept of people that are not fortunate enough to be competitive in the workforce as they get older, like I am. I'm lucky, super lucky, and what becomes of them. All right, awesome. All right, so let's look right into the to the reading. Okay, now this is again, this is a older article, but the same tenet, the same tenets concept apply in terms of this article. And it's really a lot of review. Okay, it's looking at the dynamics of the population. We see far more aged people in developed countries where people have really good health care and they're able to survive. For me, natural selection, if you're a biologist, would have taken me out multiple times with my orthopedic problems, but because we're in a wealthy nation, I've had surgeries. And next I've got a comeback coming. All right. So we're going to highlight that right here. We also review again if we have more and more older people that are a greater financial burden on you guys, the working public. Okay, the people that are looking out for their parents and grandparents. Okay, so you have these serious people that are dependent on you. So this whole dependency ratio, okay? And one way to spread the burden, okay, to make it less of an issue for you is to have more brothers and sisters, more people to hire, okay, more grandchildren, on and on and on. And we know that's not the case, okay? So fertility has plummeted in developed countries. And so the other thing that we rely on then is immigration. And now, of course, there's a lot of political turmoil about immigration, who can come here into our country and who can't. And so that's really setting up individuals into a really, really tight place in terms of caring for their older members of society. I threw this up here. This is from last year, okay, June. And so my oven, okay, um, was broken, okay, and the company that we hired, okay, in terms of their business model being cost efficient, they found it was easy to hire an immigrant who became a citizen, okay, and this is Vitali, okay, and yeah, so if it wasn't for Vitali or Vitali, he's from the Ukraine, came here in 2016. I wouldn't have gotten my oven fixed. Okay, so and herein lies the big issue. You know, if we don't have immigrants, we don't have the workforce to get the jobs done, and then that really hurts the company owners. Okay, and so we're going to see. It's a brave new world. We're going to see what goes on here. All right. Then we're going to look down here at some examples about the outcomes for people and whether they've lived a good individual life based on capitalism and they've saved up and they're going to be fine, or people that have been pretty much hand to mouth their whole lives, and you know what that means in terms of their current lifestyle. All right, so that's what that one's all about. Pretty good stuff, you know, and it really goes well with the videos that we have in the discussion. All right, so I'm going to try not to spend a whole lot of time on this article here. Sorry, come on. Okay, so alrighty, so we're looking here. Again, this article was written after the great the recession happened in 2008. Okay, and this was the collapse of the lending market, the financial market, because what happened back then is interest rates for loans, for whether buying a car or a house, were sky high. You know, it was like a hot potato. And so the paper is what that's referred to. Is so you loan somebody, you know, $500,000 for purchase of their house or whatever it is, okay? But the interest rate is sky high, and so you just sell that paper to another lending institution, on and on and on. And then a couple of banks bought up too much bad paper, and people couldn't, because interest rates were so high, they couldn't pay their individual loan for their house, for their car. They defaulted, and then if you're a bank that has all these types of loans, then you default and collapse. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. All righty. So we're looking over here and we're looking at the kind of economic, social implications of aging society. Okay. So again, they refer to the financial crisis of 2008. Okay. But what happened then is still an ongoing process. You know, that what we saw then, hopefully we learn from, but it can happen again for other reasons, is what I'm getting to. Okay, and you know the big deal is our national debt is growing. Okay, and we have these two conflicting priorities. Okay. Public spending, okay, on pensions, okay. This not only is the, you know, guaranteed income, the pension of, say, firefighters, police officers, every member of Congress, the Senate, former presidents, city managers for governments, okay, on and on and on. Any government, they get a pension. That's a pretty lucrative guaranteed income. But then we also have our Social Security system, and then kind of an offshoot that's not income, but still a burden. That's Medicare. All right. So we have pensions and we have this healthcare issue, Medicare. That is, you know, a huge draw from the economic well-being of the country. Okay. The gross domestic product. Okay. And so you're going to have to do something with spending, okay? And then we also have on the other side this need to have this budget deficit, because what we do as a country, and we've been running a deficit for God 30 years. We borrow money from other countries. It's crazy. It's like banking. And then they charge us interest, okay? And we've gotten to the point that we're not paying off the principal as a country to these other countries. We're just paying off interest, and it's growing and growing and growing and growing. And it reduces our spending capacity as a country, and also our power. All right. Awesome. So we see here when we're looking at pension and healthcare provisions, okay, 40 to 50% of all government spending in advanced economies like us, like Germany, like France, okay, is spent on just those two things, okay? So pension and healthcare. I'm going to show you that in a second. So we have population aging, right? And every country's stepping up the bat to these issues, okay? And so what are we going to have to do about that? All right? Alrighty. Now I'm going to look here. I think this is just right here. So this looks at, again, at our country right here and where we're at, okay? So this is, if we look at the budget of our federal government, okay, so you pay federal income tax, okay? And then you also pay Social Security, and you also pay Medicare tax. Okay, Social Security and Medicare tax is supposed to cover this, but it's not. So when we look at the money our government puts out every single year, you see that you're approaching here, basically 50% is based on Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Okay. We're paying interest on, remember, we're taking out loans because we run a deficit. That's 11% of our annual income that comes in, okay? 13% for defense. And then this right here is for programs, government programs that help the really, really needy. So that's kind of the way it all lays out. All right, my friends? All right, let's go back to this. Okay, so in this, this is just review, all right? So we're looking at, millions of people, okay? 2010 right here. And we see down here, this is millions, down here, population millions. And we see that there has not been, by 2010 to 2050, that big, there's not going to be that big of a change in the number of people that are in this younger age group, okay? That's the young dependents, okay? But what we see is this growth right here in the older working age group, okay, the working age group, and especially the biggest growth right here is in the older age dependents, okay? All right, so and they just kind of go through all the different countries. Why do we see this big shift, especially at the top, of the aging pyramid right here? And the drivers, okay? So we see less children being born with each generation, okay? That's also called fertility, okay? And that means on a proportional basis, that's going to mean that the older people are going to make a higher proportion because we have less kids coming through the pipeline. Okay, why is this happening? Okay, all right, they kind of go over it right here. Okay, and we see that a big part of it is that there's altered costs and rewards of marriage and child rearing. People are finding that they just want to get themselves ahead. They don't want to get married. They don't want to have kids. Don't have to tell you about this. The marriage rate has just gone down and down and down and down and down. And as a result, far fewer people are having kids. Okay. Part of it is, like in my kids, it's you guys, your generation is far different in terms of earning income. It was much easier to get rolling at a younger age in prior generations. Now you require, if you want to get a white collar job that has a reasonable income, it takes more and more and more training, okay? And it's more and more and more competitive. So people are just like, I've gotten through college, I've gotten to law school, I've gotten to medical school. I'm not in a position to have kids until I'm in my late 30s, and then you might have one or none, okay? Does that And then this is a funny concept, but it's true. Okay, back in the day, hundreds of years ago, sexual activity meant procreation, and you're going to have kids. Okay, but modern contraception has changed that. All right, so we can still have sex. We don't have to have kids. So there's less of a biological and now up here sociological drive for having kids. Okay, alrighty, so. That's the fertility trap, okay? Falling mortality. I mean, people don't die as often, okay? And this, but what happens is we've gotten rid of most infectious diseases. We got to keep our foot on the gas pedal for vaccinations, my friends, because it is the most important tool. Obviously, we have new viruses that are coming all the time, all right? And so yeah, so those preventable causes of death really have gone down and down and down. And then what's happening is people live longer, and then they have chronic diseases of aging that are much, much more expensive. Okay, all right. So then we see the implications of this. Okay, and that's over on this side. Okay. We see changes in households. Okay, that you have to make relative adjustments. Okay, we're going to have to work longer. We're living longer. We need more savings. Okay, people are going to have to work past their 60s into their 70s. Okay, there's changes in family intergenerational transfer of income. Back in the day, people would die younger. Okay, and then your beneficiaries would inherit all your assets, my 401k. My house, my kids would inherit earlier time. That can's getting kicked down the road. Okay. So now what happens is the adjustments is people are having to live with their parents much longer. Okay. And also you're having to go to school longer, and it's tougher financially to get a house and things like that. Okay. So, low replacement fertility, people aren't having kids, increased longevity. Okay, these two obviously interact. Okay, and so what we're going to see is we're going to see this big change in the labor market. Okay, for business expansion. Okay, let's say you come up with this really cool idea, gets off and running. You want to expand, you need to hire people. Okay, we have less people around to hire. All right, that's when we rely, as we talked about the first weeks, on immigration to fill in the gaps. That's becoming an issue. Okay, so that's what kind of this is all about right here. So we have this deficit in the labor market, and it is very, very concerning in terms of your financial opportunities as young adults, okay, and then middle-aged adults. And yeah. So we see here that we have a decline in portion of younger people. Okay, and when you have fewer people, like I said, this is economists say this is going to cause a reduction in economic activity. We need more workers. Okay, and we see a greater proportion of older people. Okay, this is a bigger economic burden. Okay, we preached to the choir last week. Okay, the economic burden of having to care for your parents and grandparents. Okay, that's caregiving. All right, and it's costly. Either you're going to have to pay for that caregiving by hiring somebody, or you're going to have to do it yourself, and that means lost wages for you. All right, big problem. So these are all things you have to think about. So again, and it goes, they look at kind of the globally what's going on, and this is on the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, all the developed countries, okay, and we're looking at right here. We've seen this a million times. Okay, so more and more older people, okay, and fewer younger people. So that's a burden now in terms of caring for them. Okay, how do you address this? Okay, well, immigration has always been a solution. Okay, but it's getting harder now. All right, so maybe we need illegal immigration was the easy solution. Believe me, in terms of managing my household, and having people that clean my house. Okay, illegal immigration was an easy solution for that. In terms of people helping with my yard, which is substantial. immigration was an easy solution. That whether it's legal, illegal, somebody that could pay a lower wage and still get the job done. Okay. Um, yes, yeah. So, what's the other solution then? All right. So we're not going to have immigration coming in. Okay. So then I just need to work harder longer. And that's what this is right here. All right. So, you know, rather than hiring somebody, I need to do my own house care. I need to do my own yard care. And I need to continue to make money so that I'm not tapping into Social Security and completely dependent upon that, because my government says we're going to cut Social Security maybe someday. Okay. We're going to cut health insurance someday. So then it's up to me, right? And that's kind of where it's headed right now. All right. Righty. Cool. Um, and so down here, we kind of look at the issues, can I postpone frailty and disability? I thought I was, I was eating well, I was exercising all the time. I walk a couple miles a day. And then I would surf a couple hours, every other day. It was all good. However, I had the genetics of arthritis in both my mom's side and dad's side of the family. And so what's happened to me, I was cruising until I was 60. And as you guys heard last time, um, I'm 68, going to be 69 in June. In the last 7 years, okay, what has happened to me? Okay, total knee replacement. Okay, shoulder surgery on my left shoulder. Okay, torn rotator cuff. Had the torn cartilage. Had to fix that. Then I tore my hamstring. Okay, because I was exercising too hard. Is what it is. Maybe it was something unique about my genes. Then I tore out my right shoulder, severed my bicep tendon, and now my neck. So that's 5 significant musculoskeletal issues, very costly, that has happened. And every time I make my rehab, I'm more and more frail and disabled. It is what it is, okay? But my heart's good, so I'm going to probably live forever, okay? And then I'm going to be even more costly. You have to think about that, the healthcare costs, okay? So we see right here, we have life expectancy, okay? So when you're low income, you don't get to, retool your body the way I have. People just die, okay? If you're looking at life expectancy at birth, okay, this is the healthy life expectancy, meaning you're going to have periods where you're going to be disabled and you're going to be very costly and a burden, okay? Now, like I said, I cruised till I was 60, all right? All right, so I was a little under the gun here. I wish I had gotten up here, all right? But I didn't, okay? But I kept pushing it. People live longer. You're still going to have, it doesn't matter where you're looking. This is healthy in light blue. This is total life. You're going to have, about 8 to 10 years where it's going to be the real deal in terms of the burden on you guys to care for me, for my kids to care for me, all right? Awesome. Okay, so this is a big challenge. Okay, down here these guys, here maybe I can hire somebody because I'm rich. Down here you're going to keep the man down, so to speak. Okay, the lower socioeconomic people, they can't hire anybody. They're going to do it themselves. The lower socioeconomic people then, therefore, are going to be faced with loss of income because they're doing the caregiving and this kind of domino effect that we were talking about earlier. All right, awesome. All righty, so what are we looking at? Changes in family structures. Okay, we know that people are living longer. We know that we have reduced children and grandchildren, and that's, as we indicated, changing the dynamic of support. Okay, that we saw last week. Okay, delaying life transitions. Okay, it just means that I got to work longer. Okay. There's a good chance that a lot of you will never be grandparents. Good chance a lot of you will never be parents. Okay, all right. We have this fairness, this contract. Okay, like I said, back in the day, it used to be easy to transfer funds from to your children and to your grandchildren. Okay, but now it costs so much money. People are holding on to their money, and we're not getting this transfer fund. So the only thing we can offer is you can live in my house until you get your act together. So it's a tough times for you guys. Okay, awesome. Okay. Um, Now, one thing I wanted to do, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to go to, I just want to check out last week's. All right. So we're here in week 9 until week 9. If we go back to week 8, okay. But I wanted to show you right here, okay, when we were looking at week 8, okay, and we're looking at caregiving, okay. So we talked about, how here's exactly what we're talking about in terms of the review that we just did. But we were looking here, long-term care exposure, both health and social, and we see that the Nordic countries, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, okay, they spend a lot of money. The government does as a percentage of the annual income of the country. Okay, we're at the very, very, very low end because we are capitalistic. Okay. And we also saw the same thing here in terms of childcare. Okay, they spend a ton of money on every individual child. It's up to us. We're on our own. Okay, alrighty. So how do these countries do this, and why can't we do it? Okay, and this really comes down to tax basis. Okay, so we're looking at here. I'm gonna move my picture out of the way here. Again, this is all the developed countries: Denmark, France, Belgium, Italy, on and on and on and on and on. Okay, and we see here that the tax rate as a percentage here, okay, of the gross domestic product is very, very high in these countries. Okay, and so that means that their income, okay, GDP is like the budget of the country. A big part of the income of the country is coming from their federal income tax, so to speak. Okay, and then that then allows them to pay for these types of services. Okay, whether it's childcare or elder care. We don't have that. Okay, and this is the average tax rate, and people that are really poor have a much smaller tax rate. It's your tax bracket based on income that we're going to go later on. I'm in a higher tax bracket, somewhere around 32%, and my income goes to taxes. Okay, alrighty. So, and we're always people, supposedly, the current regime, okay, the Congress and the president, they're pushing to lower taxes, right? They're going to lower the tax rate. If you lower the tax rate, then the only way that you can make this work is then you have to then lower the services, all right? And that's what's, they're trying to figure out how they're going to do this. It's going to be really interesting. There's other aspects of the federal budget that they're going to be lowering as well. Okay. Awesome. So that's, this is all the bottom line here. All right. Okay. I think that was it. Yeah, we did that. Did that. This is kind of interesting right here too. Okay. Wanted to get here. So I'm going to include this next semester. So we look at again, these are all the OECDs. Okay, and we look at the Social Security benefits. Okay, in the U.S. Okay, so we're looking at as a percentage of the income of the country right here. We see that all these other countries, okay, they provide this huge financial umbrella. So they not only provide medical and social services, but there's a guaranteed income stream that exists in all these countries right here. We're a capitalistic society. We want to lower taxes. We want to make it up to the individual, which is great if you're wealthy. But if you're not wealthy, it's a huge issue. Okay, so this is where we're at right here in terms of this. Interestingly enough, Japan is the same drill where they're pretty low. Okay, and as a result, people are expected to work much, much, much longer there. And as a result, guess what? People aren't having kids in Japan as well. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we can look down here then. This is a really cool article, and it looks at kind of the consequences of how well you did in this capitalistic society. All right, there's this guy right here. Okay, this is from 2019. All right, so this guy retired. and he's got a lot of more than enough money, and he's living a good life, and he's running kind of exercise aerobic classes at the local UCLA, actually in my neighborhood. All right, and he talks about his satisfaction. All right. Um, hey, I must have been shopping for wetsuits. All right. Um, and that's Arthur Roscoe. Okay. And they talk about in this, in the concept of what makes him happy is, that you have to look out for yourself, and that's what your next writing assignment is all about. Is doing a 401k, okay, and doing individual retirement accounts, okay, and we see that we look at total savings, okay, the median, and this is everything under the sun. It's your the assets you have in your household. It's your 401k, et cetera, et cetera. It's right here, which is not a lot of money. Most people, their assets are in their house, okay? And that's just something that you guys have to deal with right now in terms of being able to afford anything. Alrighty, so that's his scenario. Okay, then they go through two people right here that they luckily they have government subsidized housing. Okay, but this was a single mom. Okay, she worked in Hollywood. Okay, she's a TV copywriter. Okay, um, and so she's living in this really cool Long Beach Senior Arts Colony, which is again government subsidized. Okay, but she goes over what her sole income, because she was handing them out, is Social Security. Okay, so almost 80% of her Social Security is spent on rent, leaving behind. Now I want you to wrap your head around this, because you guys go out to eat a lot and have fun, etc. So this woman, her money after paying her rent that she has to live on is $245 a month. Okay, which is absurd. All right. Um, and that I want to make sure I know her first name, Kylie, or Kyle or Kylie. I think it's Kylie. And here's somebody else that's in the same boat. Okay, this is Veronica Bryant. Okay, again, they talk about how hard life is for them. Okay, then we come down here. Okay, retiring with purpose. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be able to do some really cool things, because you know why? Because I have the financial whereabouts, because from this capitalistic society I've done well. All right. This particular individual, all right, she got a pension. Okay, it's kind of like a government pension. Okay, you pay into it. Okay, when you're a teacher in the public school system, you have what's called CalPERS, I believe. So she has this guaranteed pension income stream so she doesn't have to worry about her cost of living. All right, and that is in contrast to the two other people that seem like good people, live good lives, but sadly the income's just not there. So all right, so that's that story. All right, so now we're going to make this relatable to your discussion. All right. All right, so scroll back down here. Okay, so you're going to watch these three videos. You guys are Marshall majors. Okay, so I want you to watch these videos. Okay, first two are the layout. And, this concept that I'm going to work until I'm 70, 75 years of age, and really what we see here is it's really hard for older unemployed workers to find a job. It's hard for you guys to find a job. You can imagine the boat that they're in. The unemployment makes you more physically disabled, so it accelerates the aging process and age-related diseases because of the stress that it causes. That's what that's all about right here. Okay, and so again, you think about half of retirees have only Social Security to finance the retirement, right? And some people, all right, maybe they were, kind of contract employees, that were getting paid under the table. They weren't paying into Social Security, living hand to mouth. So then when it comes time to calculate your Social Security check, you're not going to get hardly anything, okay? And that's where a lot of people are at. Okay. There's a big chunk of our population that is just like that. Okay. The gig economy, right? That of the old days. All right. So, so the third video, which is super, super cool, it highlights a lot of these people, okay, that go from job to job to job, working in just horrible conditions. They're older, they're living out of their cars, and it's the basis of this really amazing movie that actually won Academy Awards called Nomadland. All right, so you got to watch this video; you'll really trip on it. Okay, okay, guys. So that's everything you need to know there, okay, on that, okay? And then you come back here and in your discussion, think about these things. Think about where people are. Think about the lower socioeconomic individuals, people that can't work, okay? They have no income. What are we going to do, okay? How work experience affects one's aging experience, okay? All right? Because of my privileged work experience. I have great health insurance, okay, right now. Um, I have a future of a retirement that should not be stressful, on and on and on. Somebody that, for example, has a really physically demanding job, they may have been kicked out of the workplace in their 50s because of injuries. Okay. And so, what do we do with that? Okay. All right. Speak to your life experiences. Someone you may know that has difficulty. Maybe speak on how economic security impacts their level of stress, their health. And you know what? This is the big one right here, guys. What is the economic solution? What are you guys going to come with? You're inheriting all this. What are you going to come up with? All right. Peace. Guess what I'm going to do here? I'm going to show you this thing. God, can you imagine wearing this thing? I look like Darth Vader or something, It's just crazy. Okay, it actually goes this way. Um, I got a couple more days, guys. So I hope you guys had a good day. Right? Sadly, our children women's basketball team lost to UCLA. Can't win them all. They'll make a comeback. All right. All right. Enjoy this, guys, and we'll see you next week.